The space station, Kepler-7, hummed with the constant buzz of interspecies commerce. Massive cargo ships docked daily, bringing goods from across the galaxy. The station served as a neutral trading post where dozens of alien species conducted business under the watchful eye of the Galactic Trade Consortium. Zara Kah stood at the observation deck of the station's most exclusive restaurant, her tall frame casting a shadow over the smaller beings below. At nearly 8 feet tall, she commanded attention wherever she went. Her people, the Valthara, were known throughout the galaxy as apex predators turned civilized traders. Their wolf-like features, enhanced senses, and natural pack hierarchy made them formidable business partners and even more dangerous enemies. As the alpha female of the most powerful Valthara trading clan, Zara Kah had never met her equal. Her silver-blue fur gleamed under the artificial lights, and her amber eyes surveyed the crowded restaurant with the calculating gaze of a born leader. Males from every corner of the galaxy had tried to court her. Wealthy merchants, powerful politicians, even royalty from distant worlds had presented themselves as potential mates. All had been found wanting. "The Andorian delegation has arrived," her assistant Kefra announced, approaching with the submissive posture required when addressing an alpha. "They bring marriage proposals from 3 different noble houses." Zara Kah's ears flattened against her skull in annoyance. "Tell them I'm not interested in their political alliances disguised as courtship. My clan doesn't need their trade routes. But Alpha, they offer significant—" "No." Her voice carried the low growl that ended all arguments. "I will not mate with weakness, simply because it comes wrapped in wealth." Kefra bowed and retreated. This had become a familiar pattern. Suitors arrived with grand gestures and impressive dowries, only to leave disappointed when Zara Kah's enhanced senses detected their fear, their submission, their fundamental inability to match her strength. The Valthara mating process was complex, driven by instincts that had evolved over millions of years. An alpha female like Zara Kah required a mate who could challenge her, protect her, and lead alongside her. Her nose could detect pheromones that revealed a potential mate's true nature within seconds. Every male who had approached her reeked of submission masked by expensive cologne. She turned from the observation deck and walked through the restaurant's main dining area. Conversations hushed as she passed. The Valthara were respected and feared in equal measure throughout the galaxy. Their business practices were fair but ruthless, and their loyalty to clan bonds was absolute. Cross a Valthara, and you faced not just one individual but an entire pack. "Alpha Zara Kah," called out Merchant Vex II from the Rigelian Consortium. "I have news about the mining rights on Kepler-9. Perhaps we could discuss this over dinner." She could smell his nervousness from across the room. His pheromones screamed submission and barely concealed fear. Like all the others, he saw her position and wealth as prizes to be won rather than understanding what true partnership with an alpha required. "Send your proposal through proper channels," she replied without stopping. The restaurant's atmosphere grew more tense as other diners realized they were witnessing another rejection. Rumors about the unmateable alpha female had spread throughout the trading networks. Some whispered that she was defective, unable to recognize a suitable mate. Others claimed she was holding out for political advantage. The truth was simpler and more frustrating. Zara Kah had never encountered a male whose scent triggered the deep biological response that indicated a true mate. Her enhanced senses, evolved to identify genetic compatibility and psychological strength, remained stubbornly unimpressed by every suitor. She left the restaurant and walked through the station's commercial district. The wide corridors accommodated beings of all sizes, from the tiny Pixari traders who barely reached her knee to the massive Grundar whose bulk required special reinforced walkways. The air recycling systems worked overtime to manage the mix of different atmospheric requirements and biological scents. That's when she first noticed it. Among the overwhelming blend of alien pheromones, mechanical lubricants, and processed food, there was something else. A scent so faint she almost missed it, but so intriguing that her steps slowed involuntarily. Her nostrils flared as she tried to identify the source. It was unlike anything she had encountered before. Not the submission she was accustomed to detecting, nor the false bravado that many males projected. This scent carried notes of quiet confidence, genuine strength held in reserve, and something her enhanced senses recognized as genetic compatibility. She followed the trail through the commercial district, past shops selling everything from rare minerals to exotic foods. The scent grew stronger as she moved toward the service areas of the station, places where the wealthy merchants and diplomats rarely ventured. Her security detail struggled to keep up as she moved with sudden purpose through corridors that grew more utilitarian with each turn. The polished metal walls gave way to exposed conduits and maintenance access panels. The expensive shops were replaced by supply closets and equipment storage. "Alpha, where are we going?" asked her lead bodyguard Thrakna. His own enhanced senses had detected her sudden focus, and his instincts urged caution when his leader behaved unexpectedly. "Following something," she replied, not wanting to explain that she was tracking a scent like some common predator hunting prey. Her reputation for cool business acumen would suffer if word spread that she had abandoned important meetings to follow her nose through the service tunnels. The trail led to a maintenance corridor where a single human was working alone. He wore the standard brown uniform of the station's custodial staff, and his dark hair was slightly damp with perspiration from his labor. He was replacing air filtration units, handling the heavy equipment with practiced efficiency. Zaraka stopped so suddenly that Thrakna nearly collided with her. The human looked up from his work, and for a moment, their eyes met across the narrow corridor. His were brown, warm, and showed no trace of the fear she had learned to expect from other beings. "Oh, sorry," he said in accented galactic standard. "Didn't realize anyone was using this corridor. I can move my equipment if you need to get through." His voice was calm, polite, but not subservient. He spoke to her as an equal, not recognizing her status or perhaps not caring about it. More importantly, his scent was even more compelling up close. Her enhanced senses detected layers of information about this male that her conscious mind was still processing. Genetic compatibility, exceptionally high. Physical strength, impressive despite his smaller stature. Stress hormones, minimal. Fear pheromones, completely absent. "What is your name?" she asked, her voice coming out huskier than intended. "Marcus Chen," he replied, setting down a heavy filter unit with careful precision. "I'm with Maintenance Crew 7. Is there something I can help you with?" The corridor felt smaller suddenly, filled with the tension of two predators sizing each other up, though Marcus seemed unaware of the undercurrents swirling around them. Zaraka's bodyguards were confused by her behavior but remained alert for any potential threat. "You're human," she observed, though it wasn't really a question. "Last time I checked," he said with a slight smile that showed no malice or mockery. "Though after 18 months on this station, I sometimes wonder." His humor was dry, genuine, and completely unforced. Most beings who encountered her tried too hard to impress her or cower before her reputation. Marcus simply continued his work while making conversation, as if talking to an 8-foot-tall apex predator was the most natural thing in the world. 18 months, she repeated. "You've been here long enough to know who I am." "Sure. Zaraka of the Starwind Trading Clan. Your cargo ships are some of the most impressive vessels that dock here. I've cleaned the docking bays after your crews unload. They're efficient workers." He knew her by reputation but showed no sign of the typical reactions. No attempt to curry favor, no nervous energy, no submission displays. If anything, he seemed mildly curious about why she was in a maintenance corridor when she clearly had better places to be. "You're not afraid," she said, more to herself than to him. "Should I be?" Marcus asked, genuinely puzzled. "You're not here to arrest me, are you?" "Because I filed all the proper requests before shutting down this air recycling junction." His scent remained absolutely steady. No spike in stress hormones, no fight or flight response. Her presence, which intimidated diplomats and made powerful merchants nervous, had no effect on this human janitor. "Your species," she said carefully. "What do you know about Valthera mating customs?" If Marcus found the question odd, he didn't show it. Not much beyond what everyone knows. Pack bonding, scent compatibility, alpha hierarchies. Why? No reason. She was lying, and part of her was frustrated that this human couldn't detect her deception the way another Valthara would, but another part found his honesty refreshing after years of dealing with beings who measured every word for advantage. "Well," Marcus said, checking his work schedule on a tablet, "I should probably get these filters installed before the next shift change. Nice meeting you, Alpha Zaraka." He turned back to his work with the same casual dismissal he might show any other being. No one dismissed her. No one treated her as just another person in the corridor. The novelty was as intriguing as his scent. She stood there for several long moments, watching him work. His movements were efficient and confident. When he lifted heavy equipment, his muscles moved beneath his uniform in ways that suggested significant physical strength. His hands were calloused from honest labor, and there was something undeniably appealing about a male who worked with practical purpose rather than political maneuvering. Alpha, Thrakna said quietly. The Rigelian meeting is scheduled to begin soon. She had completely forgotten about the trade negotiations that had brought her to this section of the station. For the first time in years, business was not the primary focus of her attention. Cancel it, she said. Cancel it? Thrakna's voice rose slightly in disbelief. But the mineral rights can wait. She was still watching Marcus install the air filters, noting how he double-checked each connection and tested the airflow before moving to the next unit. Reschedule for tomorrow. Her security detail exchanged confused glances. Zaraka had never postponed important business for anything short of a clan emergency, yet here she was, abandoning a potentially lucrative meeting to watch a human maintenance worker do his job. Marcus finished installing the last filter and began packing his tools. As he worked, he hummed quietly to himself, a melody that seemed to come from his homeworld. The sound was oddly soothing, and Zaraka found herself wondering what other human customs might be equally fascinating. Marcus, she called as he prepared to leave. Yes? Do humans have specific dining customs? Preferences for certain foods or social rituals around meals? He looked genuinely thoughtful about the question. Depends on which human culture you're asking about. Earth had hundreds of different traditions before we joined the galactic community. Why do you ask? Curiosity. Another lie. Though she was beginning to understand that her interest in this human went far beyond simple curiosity. Well, if you're ever interested in learning more, I usually grab dinner at the communal cafeteria around shift change. It's not fancy, but the food is honest and the company is generally decent. With that casual invitation, he gathered his equipment and walked away down the corridor. He moved with the same confident ease that had first caught her attention, completely unaware that he had just extended a social invitation to one of the most powerful beings on the station. Zaraka stood in the empty corridor long after his footsteps faded, her enhanced senses still processing the complex mix of pheromones he had left behind. For the first time in her adult life, she had encountered a male whose scent didn't trigger rejection but instead awakened something deeper. Thrakna, she said finally. Yes, Alpha? Find out everything you can about Marcus Chen. His background, his work record, his reasons for being on this station. But be discreet. I don't want him to know he's being investigated. Understood, Alpha? May I ask why? She turned to look at her bodyguard, seeing the confusion and concern in his eyes. How could she explain that 18 months of successful business and strategic planning might be about to change because of a chance encounter with a human janitor? Because, she said slowly, I think I just met my mate. The walk back to her quarters felt different now. The familiar corridors of Kepler 7 seemed charged with new possibilities. Other beings moved aside as she passed, offering the usual respectful greetings, but Zaraka barely noticed them. Her mind was occupied with analyzing every moment of her conversation with Marcus. His scent had been the first indicator, but there were other factors to consider. True mating among the Vilthara required more than just biological compatibility. There had to be mental and emotional connection, the ability to challenge and support each other through the complex dynamics of pack leadership. Back in her private quarters, she dismissed her security detail and stood before the large windows that looked out over the docking bays. Cargo ships came and went in their endless dance of commerce, their running lights creating patterns against the star field beyond. Her personal communicator chimed with messages from various business associates, all requiring decisions and attention. Under normal circumstances, she would have addressed each one immediately. The Starwind trading clan had built its reputation on prompt, decisive leadership. Instead, she found herself wondering what Marcus Chen did when his shift ended. Did he have friends among the station crew? Did he spend his free time in the recreational areas? Or did he prefer solitude? What were his plans beyond his current position as maintenance staff? The questions multiplied as the hours passed. She had managed multi-billion credit trade negotiations without this level of distraction. Yet a brief conversation in a maintenance corridor had disrupted her famous focus more thoroughly than any business challenge she had ever faced. When Thrakna returned with his preliminary report, she reviewed it with growing interest. Marcus Chen had arrived on Kepler 7 18 months ago as part of a general labor recruitment program. His background check showed a clean record, solid work evaluations, and no significant debts or legal issues. He had no family connections to any major trading houses or political organizations. Most intriguingly, he had turned down 3 offers for promotion to supervisory positions, preferring to remain in direct maintenance work. This suggested either a lack of ambition or a preference for honest labor over political maneuvering. Given what she had observed of his character, she suspected the latter. "There's something else, Alpha," Thrakna reported. His previous employment record shows he worked as a structural engineer on colony construction projects. He's significantly overqualified for his current position. Why would an engineer take a janitorial job on a space station? Unknown. The file indicates he requested assignment to general maintenance, specifically. No explanation is provided. This added another layer of mystery to Marcus Chen. An educated professional choosing manual labor suggested someone running from something or hiding from someone. Yet his behavior had shown no signs of deception or anxiety. As the station's artificial night cycle began, Zaraka made an unprecedented decision. She would visit the communal cafeteria during the next shift change, not as the alpha female conducting business, but as someone interested in learning more about human dining customs. The rationale was thin, and she knew it. But for the first time in her adult life, she was willing to set aside the demands of leadership for the possibility of something more personal. The Valtara had an old saying, "The nose knows what the mind denies." Her enhanced senses had identified Marcus Chen as a potential mate, but her rational mind still struggled with the implications. He was human, not Valthara. He was a maintenance worker, not a leader. By every conventional measure, he was an unsuitable choice for someone of her status. Yet his scent lingered in her memory, and the easy confidence he had shown continued to intrigue her. Tomorrow, she would learn more about Marcus Chen and try to understand why her instincts had responded so strongly to this unlikely male. The stars wheeled slowly beyond her windows as Kepler 7 continued its eternal orbit, carrying its diverse population of beings through another day of interstellar commerce. Among them all, one human janitor had managed to capture the attention of the galaxy's most selective alpha female. Neither of them yet understood how completely this chance encounter would change both their lives. Marcus Chen finished his shift and headed toward the communal cafeteria, unaware that his routine was about to be disrupted in ways he couldn't imagine. The past day had been typical for station maintenance work, replacing worn components and ensuring the complex systems that kept thousands of beings alive continued functioning smoothly. He enjoyed the work more than he had expected when he first arrived on Kepler 7. After years of designing colony structures and managing construction teams, there was something satisfying about the immediate, tangible results of maintenance tasks. Fix a broken recycling unit, and the air quality improved. Replace worn power conduits, and the lights stopped flickering. Simple cause and effect without the political complications that had driven him away from his engineering career. The cafeteria buzzed with conversation in dozens of languages as beings from various shifts gathered for meals. Marcus grabbed a tray and selected items that approximated human dietary needs. Though 18 months on the station had taught him to be adventurous with alien cuisines, the Zentari protein patties weren't bad once you got used to the texture, and the Andromedan grain dishes actually reminded him of foods from home. He found his usual table in a quiet corner where he could eat in peace while reading technical manuals on his tablet. Learning about alien technologies had become a hobby since arriving on the station. The engineering principles were fascinating, and understanding different approaches to similar problems helped him perform his maintenance duties more effectively. "Mind if I sit here?" Marcus looked up from his reading to see Zaraka standing beside his table with a meal tray. The sight was so unexpected that he almost choked on his food. The alpha female of the most powerful Valthara trading clan was asking to join him for dinner in the communal cafeteria. "Of course," he managed, setting aside his tablet. "Though I have to say, this is probably the last place I expected to see you. I wanted to learn about human dining customs," she said, settling onto the reinforced bench across from him. Her large frame made the standard furniture look small, but she moved with careful grace to avoid appearing threatening. Marcus glanced around the cafeteria, noting that their unusual pairing had already attracted attention. Conversations at nearby tables had grown quieter as beings tried to observe without appearing to stare. "Well, you're getting an authentic experience," he said, gesturing at the modest surroundings. "Though I should mention that most human cultures put a lot more emphasis on the social aspects of dining than I do. I tend to eat alone and read while I'm eating." "Why?" Her amber eyes studied his face with an intensity that suggested genuine curiosity rather than polite conversation. Habit, mostly. When I was working construction projects, meal breaks were often the only quiet time available for studying technical specifications or catching up on communications from home. You mentioned you were an engineer, Zaraka said, sampling one of the Andromedan dishes with careful attention. Why did you leave that work? The question was direct and personal, which surprised him. In his experience, powerful beings like Zaraka rarely showed interest in the backgrounds of maintenance workers. Politics, he said after a moment. I got tired of spending more time managing competing interests than actually building things. Construction projects on new colonies involve a lot of different groups with different agendas. Sometimes the best engineering solution isn't politically acceptable to one faction or another, so you chose to work with machines instead of people. Machines are honest, Marcus replied. They break down for identifiable reasons, and they work when you fix them properly. No hidden agendas or personal conflicts to navigate. Zaraka's expression suggested she understood that sentiment better than he might have expected. Leadership often involves similar challenges, balancing competing interests while trying to achieve practical results. Is that why you're having dinner in the communal cafeteria instead of that expensive restaurant in the commercial district? Her ears flattened slightly. A gesture Marcus had learned indicated embarrassment or discomfort among Valthara. You know about the restaurant. I maintain the air recycling systems throughout the station, including the commercial district. I see where different beings choose to spend their time. He took another bite of his meal, then added, Plus, the cafeteria staff mentioned that you had never eaten here before tonight. They were pretty surprised when you showed up. Observant, she said with what might have been approval. Most beings don't pay attention to maintenance workers. Most beings don't realize how much maintenance workers see and hear while doing their jobs. We're practically invisible, which gives us a unique perspective on station life. Marcus found himself relaxing as their conversation continued. Despite her imposing size and fearsome reputation, Zaraka was easy to talk with. She asked thoughtful questions and listened to his answers with genuine attention. More importantly, she treated him as an equal, rather than a subordinate to be dismissed or a curiosity to be studied. What do you think of the Valthara? She asked eventually. Efficient, Marcus said immediately. Your cargo operations are some of the smoothest on the station. Your crews know their jobs and do them well. Minimal drama, maximum results. That's a very practical assessment. I'm a practical person. I judge beings by their actions, not their reputations. Zaraka seemed to consider this carefully. And what actions have you observed from me? Marcus paused, realizing this was probably a more loaded question than it appeared. Honestly, today was the first time I've seen you interact with anyone outside official business contexts. But you've been polite, asked interesting questions, and you're the first being of your status who has ever bothered to learn my name. Most beings in your position treat maintenance staff like part of the equipment. Perhaps most beings in my position are missing valuable perspectives. Their conversation was interrupted by the arrival of Thrakna and another Valthara who Marcus didn't recognize. Both approached the table with the careful posture of bodyguards who weren't entirely comfortable with their principal's current activities. Alpha, Thrakna said quietly. The Andromedan delegation is requesting an urgent meeting about the mining concessions. Tell them I'm unavailable until tomorrow. Zaraka replied without looking away from Marcus. But Alpha, this could affect the entire negotiation schedule. Tomorrow, Thrakna. The dismissal was final, and both bodyguards retreated to a nearby table where they could maintain security while giving their leader privacy. Marcus noticed that several other beings in the cafeteria had also recognized the significance of Zaraka postponing business meetings to continue a casual dinner. Do you always keep your security detail waiting while you eat with maintenance workers? Marcus asked. Never, she admitted. This is unprecedented for me. Should I be flattered? Or concerned? Both, perhaps. Her expression grew more serious. Marcus, may I ask you a personal question? Sure. Do you have any experience with interspecies relationships? The question caught him completely off guard. He had been wondering why Zaraka was showing such interest in his company. But this suggested possibilities he hadn't considered. Not really, he said slowly. I've had friends from different species, but nothing romantic. Why do you ask? Because I believe my people's biology might be responding to you in ways that could complicate both our lives. Marcus set down his fork and studied her face. Zaraka's amber eyes held a mix of uncertainty and determination that suggested this admission had not been easy for her. When you say, responding, what exactly do you mean? Vaelthara have enhanced senses that help us identify genetic compatibility and psychological suitability in potential mates. These responses are largely unconscious and very powerful. She paused, then continued more quietly. Yesterday, when I encountered you in the maintenance corridor, my senses identified you as a potential mate. Marcus felt his world shift slightly on its axis. He had noticed Zaraka's interest but had attributed it to curiosity or perhaps boredom with her usual social circles. The possibility that there might be biological factors involved added complexity he wasn't prepared for. That's significant, he said carefully. Yes, it's also problematic. You're human. I'm Valthara. You work in maintenance. I lead a major trading clan. By every conventional measure, we're completely unsuitable for each other. But your biology doesn't care about conventional measures. Exactly. She reached across the table and placed one large clawed hand near his smaller human one. Marcus, I need you to understand that I don't take this situation lightly. Vaelthara mating bonds are permanent and profound. If we pursue this connection, it will change everything about both our lives. Marcus looked down at their hands, noting the obvious physical differences while also becoming aware of something less obvious. The air between them seemed charged with possibility, and he found himself wanting to close the distance between their fingers. What are you asking me? He said. I'm asking if you would be willing to spend time with me, to learn about each other and see if there's something real beneath the biological attraction. But I need you to know the risks. My people are powerful, and my position makes me valuable to many different factions. Getting involved with me could make you a target for political manipulation or worse. And if we decide we're compatible, what then? Then we would face the challenge of bridging two very different species and social positions. Your life would change completely. My clan would have to accept a human mate for their alpha female, which has never happened in our history. Marcus considered this carefully. His engineering background had taught him to analyze complex problems by breaking them into manageable components. This situation involved biology, politics, sociology, and personal emotions, all interacting in ways that made prediction difficult. Can I ask you something? He said. Anything. Yesterday, when you found me in that corridor, what exactly did you sense? I mean, what convinced your instincts that I might be suitable? Zaraka's ears twitched in what he was beginning to recognize as embarrassment. Your scent carried information about genetic compatibility, physical health, and psychological stability. But more than that, you showed no fear or submission in my presence. Most males I encounter either try to dominate me or defer to my status. You simply treated me as another person. Because that's what you are. An impressive person with significant responsibilities but still just a person. That perspective is rarer than you might think. Marcus reached across the table and gently touched her hand with his fingertips. The contact sent an unexpected jolt of awareness through him, suggesting that whatever biological responses were affecting her might be influencing him as well. Zaraka, he said, I'm not going to pretend I understand all the implications of what you're suggesting, but I'm willing to learn. You're the most interesting person I've met since arriving on this station, and that was before I knew about any biological compatibility factors. Her hand turned over to capture his fingers in a gentle grip that was careful not to let her claws scratch his skin. You understand this won't be simple. There will be challenges from both our peoples. I'm good at solving complex problems. It's what engineers do. This isn't a mechanical system you can fix with the right tools. No, Marcus agreed. But the basic principle still applies. You identify the key components, understand how they interact, and work systematically toward a solution. The components are just different. For the first time since he had met her, Zaraka smiled. It transformed her entire face, making her look younger and less intimidating despite the impressive canine teeth it revealed. You realize, she said, that if this works out, you'll probably end up as the mate of one of the most powerful beings in this sector of the galaxy. And you realize that if this works out, you'll be mated to a maintenance worker who prefers honest labor to political games. I'm beginning to think that might be exactly what I need. Their dinner continued for another hour, during which they talked about everything from human and Vaelthara cultural differences to their respective views on interstellar trade policies. Marcus found himself impressed by Zaraka's intelligence and practical approach to complex problems. While she seemed genuinely interested in his perspective on engineering and maintenance operations, when they finally parted ways, it was with an agreement to meet again the following evening. Marcus walked back to his quarters, with his mind spinning, trying to process the dramatic turn his life had taken. 24 hours ago, he had been an anonymous maintenance worker focused on keeping station systems running smoothly. Now he was potentially courting the alpha female of a major alien trading clan. Meanwhile, Zaraka returned to her quarters to face a barrage of questions from her advisors about her unprecedented behavior. Canceling important meetings, dining in the communal cafeteria, and spending hours in conversation with a human maintenance worker had generated considerable concern among her staff. Alpha, her chief advisor Rektha said carefully, "The clan elders are asking questions about your recent activities. They're concerned about potential security risks or political complications. Tell the elders that I'm exploring new opportunities," Zaraka replied. "They don't need additional details at this time. But Alpha, if this human has somehow influenced your judgment," Rektha. Her voice carried the warning growl that ended arguments. "My judgment is sound. You will respect my decisions without question, as you always have." The advisor bowed and retreated, but Zaraka could sense his continuing concern. Similar doubts would be spreading through her organization as word of her unusual behavior reached other clan members. She would need to manage the political implications carefully, while giving her relationship with Marcus room to develop. For the first time in her adult life, personal desires were competing with clan responsibilities for her attention. The sensation was both exhilarating and terrifying, suggesting that Marcus Chen might already be having a more profound effect on her than she had anticipated. As the station settled into its artificial night cycle, both Human and Valthara found themselves contemplating a future that had become suddenly more complex and interesting. Neither fully understood what they were beginning, but both were curious enough to continue exploring the unprecedented connection between them. The next morning brought new challenges. Marcus arrived at work to find his supervisor, Chief Hernandez, waiting with an expression of barely controlled panic. "Chen," she said, "we need to talk. Now." He followed her to the maintenance office, noting the unusual tension in her body language. Chief Hernandez had run the maintenance department for 8 years and rarely showed this level of stress. "What's going on?" Marcus asked. "That's what I want to know. I just got a call from station administration asking about your security clearance level and work history. They want to know if you've been having contact with any high-value diplomatic targets." Marcus felt a sinking sensation as he realized the implications. High-value targets? Don't play dumb with me, Chen. Half the cafeteria saw you having dinner with Zaraka last night. Now administration is asking questions, and I need to know if you've gotten yourself into something that's going to cause problems for my department. The practical complications of his situation with Zaraka were beginning to manifest faster than he had expected. If their relationship continued to develop, it would inevitably attract attention from various factions interested in influencing or controlling the powerful Valthara leader. "Chief," Marcus said carefully, "I haven't done anything that violates station regulations or my employment contract. But you're right that the situation might become complicated." "Complicated how?" "I'm not entirely sure yet, but I promise I'll keep you informed if anything affects my work performance or creates security issues for the department." Chief Hernandez studied his face with the practiced eye of someone who had managed challenging personnel situations for years. "Chen, you're a good worker, and I don't want to lose you. But if this thing with the Valthara leader puts my people at risk, I'll transfer you off the station myself. Understood?" "Understood." As Marcus returned to his assigned duties, he realized that his evening conversation with Zaraka had already begun generating the complications she had warned him about. The challenge would be navigating these pressures while giving their unusual relationship room to develop. By the end of his shift, he had made a decision. If he was going to pursue this connection with Zaraka, he needed to be fully committed and prepared for the consequences. Half measures would protect neither of them from the political and social challenges they would face. The question was whether the potential rewards justified the certain risks. As he prepared for their second dinner together, Marcus found himself hoping that the answer would become clearer as they learned more about each other. 3 weeks had passed since Marcus and Zaraka began their unconventional courtship, and the entire station was buzzing with speculation. Their evening meetings in the communal cafeteria had become regular occurrences, drawing curious observers and generating countless rumors about the unprecedented relationship between the alpha female and the human maintenance worker. Marcus had learned to navigate the strange new reality of his situation. Security personnel now monitored his movements, not as a threat but as protection for someone who had become politically significant through his connection to Zaraka. His work assignments had been modified to keep him away from sensitive areas during high-level diplomatic visits, and Chief Hernandez briefed him daily on potential security concerns. The attention was uncomfortable, but Marcus found that his growing relationship with Zaraka made the complications worthwhile. Their conversations had evolved from tentative exploration to genuine intellectual intimacy. She was brilliant, funny, and refreshingly direct after years of dealing with beings who measured every word for political advantage. More importantly, the biological attraction between them had deepened into something more complex and meaningful. When they were together, Marcus felt a sense of completion he had never experienced with anyone else. The differences in their species and social positions seemed less important than their fundamental compatibility as individuals. This evening was different from their usual dinner meetings. Zaraka had invited Marcus to her private quarters for the first time, a gesture that carried significant meaning in Valtara culture. According to the research he had conducted over the past weeks, allowing a potential mate into one's personal space represented a serious escalation in their relationship. Marcus arrived at the executive level of the station, wearing his best civilian clothes, which still looked modest compared to the luxury surrounding him. The corridors here were wider, the lighting softer, and the air carried the subtle sense of expensive imports from across the galaxy. Zaraka's quarters were impressive without being ostentatious. The main living area featured furnishings designed to accommodate her larger frame, while artwork from various worlds created an atmosphere of cultured sophistication. Large windows provided a spectacular view of the starfield beyond the station. "Welcome to my home," she said, greeting him at the entrance. She wore a flowing garment in deep blue that complemented her silver-blue fur and amber eyes. The formal attire suggested that this evening held special significance for her as well. "It's beautiful," Marcus said, genuinely impressed by the tasteful blend of functionality and elegance. "Though I have to admit, I feel somewhat underdressed." "You look perfect." Her voice carried a warmth that made his pulse quicken. "I wanted tonight to be special because I have something important to discuss with you." She led him to a seating area arranged around a low table where a meal had been prepared. The dishes were human-compatible foods prepared according to recipes she had researched, another gesture that demonstrated her attention to his needs and preferences. "You cooked this yourself?" Marcus asked, noting the careful presentation and complex aromas. "With some assistance from my personal chef. But yes, I wanted to understand human culinary traditions better." She settled gracefully onto the reinforced furniture across from him. "How does it compare to foods from your homeworld?" Marcus tasted several dishes, finding them remarkably authentic despite the limitations of station resources. "This is incredible. Some of these spices must have cost more than I make in a month." Cost is irrelevant when preparing a meal for someone important. The simple statement carried implications that made Marcus pause in his eating. Over the past weeks, their relationship had grown progressively deeper, but neither had explicitly discussed their long-term intentions. Tonight felt like that conversation was finally approaching. "Zaraka," he said carefully, "when you say someone important, what exactly do you mean?" "I mean someone who has become essential to my happiness." Her amber eyes met his steadily. "Marcus, these past weeks with you have been the most satisfying of my adult life. You challenge me intellectually, make me laugh, and treat me as a person rather than a position. When we're together, I feel like myself rather than the alpha female." "I feel the same way. Being with you has made me realize how lonely I was before we met." "Then you understand why I needed to talk with you tonight." She rose from her seat and walked to the windows overlooking space. "My clan elders have been asking questions about my relationship with you. They're concerned about the political and social implications of an alpha female bonding with a human." Marcus joined her at the windows, sensing that this was the crucial conversation they had both been anticipating. "What kind of concerns?" "Practical ones. Mostly. Valthara mating bonds are permanent and exclusive. If we formalize our relationship, it will affect every aspect of clan politics and business operations. They want to understand what this means for our trading alliances, territorial agreements, and succession planning." "And what did you tell them?" "That I'm in love with you." The words were simple and direct, but they hit Marcus with the force of a revelation. I told them that for the first time in my life, I've found someone who makes me want to be more than just a successful leader. Marcus turned to face her fully, seeing vulnerability in her expression that she rarely allowed others to witness. I love you too. I think I have for weeks, but I wasn't sure how to say it. Then you understand the choice we're facing. We can continue as we have, meeting quietly and avoiding official recognition of our bond. Or we can make this formal and face whatever challenges arise together. What would formal recognition involve? A mating ceremony according to Valthara customs. It would make you my official partner and give you status within the clan structure, but it would also make you a target for anyone who wants to influence or harm me. Marcus considered this carefully. The past weeks had given him glimpses of the complex pressures Zaraka faced as a leader. Formalizing their relationship would thrust him into that world permanently, with all its dangers and responsibilities. What do you want? He asked. I want you as my mate. I want to build a life together that honors both our natures while challenging the assumptions both our peoples have about interspecies relationships. She reached out to take his hand in her larger one. But I need to know that you want the same thing, despite the difficulties. Zaraka. 3 weeks ago I was a maintenance worker who thought his biggest challenge was keeping air recycling systems running efficiently. Now you're asking me to become the mate of one of the most powerful beings in this sector of the galaxy. Yes, it's terrifying, he admitted. I don't know anything about clan politics or interstellar diplomacy. I'm not sure I'll be able to provide the kind of support you need as a leader. You already provide the most important support I need. You keep me grounded in reality and remind me that power should serve practical purposes. You make me laugh and challenge my assumptions. Those qualities are more valuable than political experience. Marcus looked out at the stars, thinking about the decision he was facing. His old life had been safe and predictable, but it had also been lonely and limited. Zaraka was offering him something extraordinary, despite the risks involved. If we do this, he said, I want to do it right. I want to learn about Valthara customs and find ways to contribute meaningfully to your clan's success. I don't want to be just the alpha female's unusual mate. What do you have in mind? I'm an engineer. Your clan operates some of the most sophisticated cargo vessels in the galaxy. There must be ways I can apply my technical knowledge to improve your operations or develop new capabilities. Zaraka's expression brightened with enthusiasm. Actually, there are several engineering challenges my technical staff have been struggling with. New propulsion efficiency problems, cargo handling optimization, station construction projects. Your background could be extremely valuable. See? I told you I'm good at solving complex problems. Then you're saying yes? Marcus turned back to her, seeing hope and love in her amber eyes. The decision that had seemed so complicated suddenly felt simple. I'm saying yes. I want to be your mate. Face whatever challenges arise together, and build something unprecedented. Zaraka's response was immediate and powerful. She pulled him into an embrace that lifted him off his feet, her strength evident but carefully controlled to avoid hurting him. When she set him down, both were breathing hard with emotion and excitement. Marcus Chen, she said formally, will you accept the mating bond of Zaraka, alpha female of the Starwind trading clan? I will, he replied, understanding instinctively that he was participating in a ritual with deep cultural significance. What happened next was unlike anything Marcus had expected. Zaraka's scent changed subtly, becoming richer and more complex. His human senses couldn't detect all the nuances, but something in his body responded to the change with a surge of recognition and belonging. The bond is forming, she said softly. Can you feel it? Marcus could. It was as if a new awareness had awakened in his mind, a connection to Zaraka that went beyond normal emotional attachment. He could sense her presence in ways that had nothing to do with his physical senses. This is permanent? He asked. For life. We're bonded now in ways that will affect us both on biological and psychological levels. Your scent will change to indicate your mated status, and other Valthara will recognize our connection instinctively. The implications were profound. Marcus was no longer just a human who had formed an attachment to an alien leader. He was now part of the Valthara social structure, with all the rights and responsibilities that entailed. What happens now? Now we announce our mating to the clan elders and begin planning our formal ceremony. But first, we have tonight to celebrate privately. They spent the evening talking about their hopes for the future and their concerns about the challenges they would face. The bond between them had created new levels of understanding and communication that made conversation effortless. Marcus found himself sharing thoughts and feelings he had never expressed to anyone, while Zaraka revealed vulnerabilities and dreams she had kept hidden throughout her adult life. As the station's artificial night cycle deepened, they settled together on the large seating furniture designed to accommodate Zaraka's frame. Marcus fit perfectly against her side, her warmth and strength providing a sense of security he had never experienced. "Do you regret anything?" she asked quietly. "Only that it took me 18 months to meet you. Worth the wait. Definitely worth the wait." The next morning brought a flurry of activity as news of their mating bond spread through the station. The Valthara crew members of the Starwind clan gathered to offer formal recognition of their alpha's choice, while station administration scrambled to understand the political implications of the unprecedented union. Marcus found himself the subject of intense scrutiny from beings who had never noticed him before. Diplomats who had previously ignored maintenance workers now sought meetings to assess his potential influence on Valthara trade policies. Rival trading houses analyzed the mating for signs of strategic advantage or weakness. Through it all, Zaraka remained a constant source of support and guidance. She taught him the subtle protocols of Valthara society while protecting him from the more predatory aspects of interstellar politics. Her clan members, initially skeptical of their alpha's human mate, gradually accepted Marcus as he proved his intelligence, practical skills, and genuine commitment to their leader. The formal mating ceremony took place a month later in the station's largest gathering space. Representatives from dozens of species attended, making it one of the most significant social events in the station's history. Marcus wore traditional Valthara ceremonial garments adapted for his human physique, while Zaraka appeared in the ancestral regalia of her clan's alpha lineage. The ceremony itself was a blend of Valthara customs and human traditions, symbolizing the merging of two different approaches to life and love. When it concluded, Marcus was officially recognized as the mate of an alpha female and a full member of the Starwind trading clan. The celebration that followed lasted 3 days and featured foods, entertainment, and customs from across the galaxy. Beings who had never interacted socially found common ground in witnessing something genuinely unprecedented and hopeful. 6 months later, Marcus stood in the observation deck of the clan's newest cargo vessel, watching the construction of a massive space habitat that would serve as the Starwind clan's mobile headquarters. His engineering expertise had proven invaluable in designing systems that could accommodate both Valthara and human crew members, while his practical maintenance background helped optimize operational efficiency. "Satisfied with your work?" Zaraka asked, joining him at the observation windows. "Getting there. The power distribution network still needs some refinement, but the basic structure is solid. And are you satisfied with your life?" Marcus turned to look at his mate, noting the subtle changes in her appearance that indicated her current biological state. Valthara pregnancy was barely visible in the early stages, but their bond allowed him to sense the developing life she carried. "Ask me again in about 7 months when our child arrives," he said with a smile. "Still nervous about raising a half-human, half-Valthara child?" "Terrified," Marcus admitted, "but also excited. Our kid is going to have perspectives that no one in the galaxy has ever had before, like their father and their mother." Zaraka moved to stand beside him, her larger frame providing warmth and comfort as they watched the stars wheel slowly beyond their ship. The space habitat taking shape outside would become home to the first truly mixed-species clan in Valthara history, a demonstration that love and practical cooperation could overcome seemingly impossible differences. "Do you ever miss your old life?" she asked. "Sometimes I miss the simplicity, but I've never missed being alone." "Good, because you're stuck with me for the rest of our lives." "Worst fate I can imagine," Marcus said dryly, earning a gentle swat from his mate's massive hand. As their ship continued its journey through space, carrying the Starwind clan toward new opportunities and adventures, Marcus reflected on the improbable path that had brought him to this point. A chance encounter in a maintenance corridor had led to the most profound relationship of his life and membership in one of the galaxy's most influential organizations. More importantly, his relationship with Zaraka had become a symbol of possibility for other beings considering interspecies partnerships. Their success had inspired similar unions throughout the galaxy, gradually breaking down barriers that had existed for centuries. The universe was vast and full of different forms of life, but love and understanding could bridge any gap between them. Marcus Chen, former maintenance worker turned Alpha's mate, had learned that sometimes the most important discoveries happened not through careful planning but through the courage to follow unexpected connections wherever they led. In the distance, a new star system beckoned with opportunities for trade and exploration. Whatever challenges awaited them there, Marcus and Zaraka would face them together, their bond stronger than any obstacle the galaxy could present.